This has got to stop.
And I'm hurting real bad.
We're serious, and we'll be here until we get this problem resolved.
Because there's too many guns out here, there's too many drive-bys going on.
The history of crime in 5 Points.
We see little 6-year-old kids shot and other people shot in the community that are innocent victims.
Is complicated at best.
Oh man, it got bad. It got bad.
There's no question the neighborhood developed a hard and somewhat seedy reputation in the 80s and 90s with gang-related violence and shootings nearly every day.
That was my son. He's a part of me.
But in order to truly understand the evolution of crime in 5 Points, Brother Jeff Fard and Reverend Leon Kelly say you have to go back. Way back to a time before the 80s and 90s.
We moved over in this neighborhood, in 1955. My mom and dad bought our house for like $11,000. 37th and St. Paul.
It was a neighborhood full of life, jazz, and trailblazers.
You see that house right there?
Yes.
That's the Black American West Museum. That used to be Dr. Justina Ford's home, 1902 to 1952.
Wow.
Dr. Justina Ford. Dr. Justina Ford could not practice out of a hospital because she was black and she was a woman. She was practicing her medicine in the community. That is 5 Points history.
And it was, for all intents and purposes, a simpler life.
I grew up here in Northeast Denver, and there was never a time where positive adults were not involved in young people's lives. They were coaches, they were mentors, they were ever present in the community. And so that's the answer, positive adults in young people's lives.
My dad came home after getting a job here at the Tramway Bus Company and making big money, $1.25 an hour. That was the innocent times of those days, Again, that was the time that we knew everybody in our block, everybody.
Then, Reverend Kelly and Brother Jeff both say that way of life began to erode, in large part due to the cost of living going up, adults working more, and a huge wave of negative influences, mostly from out of state.
Then what happened?
What we started to see in the late 80s, in the early 90s, was the influx of crack cocaine. So you're starting to see drug addiction.
You got places like California, Chicago, Detroit, other places that were dealing with some issues, but this is Colorado. Not colorful Colorado, man.
And then also the materialism in terms of fighting and killing over starter jackets and tennis shoes.
The culture shift had started and was quickly snowballing.
Reed has a police contact sheet this long. Everything from drugs to assault with a weapon to intimidating a witness.
Symbols of a deadly Halloween still decorate the lawn outside Carl Banks' home.
Drive-by shootings were becoming commonplace. Drugs had taken over city streets, and the Crips and Bloods had marked their territories in 5 Points, Park Hill, and beyond.
Undercover detectives raided this North Denver crack house and found nearly $1 million worth of crack cocaine.
And funerals of young people became an all too familiar scene.
Were kids dying weekly, daily?
Well, they were getting shot daily.
Reverend Kelly's list of people who died violently and died young was growing in the late 80s, and by 1990, the numbers had skyrocketed. Then came what newspapers dubbed the Summer of Violence in 1993.
What took place, there was a young white child that was hit with a bullet in the zoo. And it always depends on who's impacted by the violence.
Marianne Lowe, a school teacher coming from, I think, Jefferson County. The gangsters went out, they saw her, shot her up, killed her.
Then there was 6-year-old Broderick Bell, a first grader, on his way home from his first karate lesson.
The bullet that hit 6-year-old Broderick Bell was fired, police say, by a girl.
The public had seen enough, and Denver city officials had no choice but to ramp up enforcement.
Primary focus will be on gang activity and crack houses.
Mayor Wellington Webb even giving police the green light to stop anyone suspicious, which some argued was profiling, while Webb called it necessary.
Those individuals that are stopped that are not guilty of a crime need to work with the police department.
They're doing a good job as long as they, arrest the people that they're supposed to be arresting.
At the state level, Democratic Governor Roy Romer called a special session.
And we got the Pope coming, we got white folks getting killed and all of this stuff. We are going to call a special session. What did he do? He got the people out of bed, said, you're going to meet up with this. We're going to come up with these laws. We're going to, deal with this.
On the ground, community activism also swelled. Brother Jeff launching Brother Jeff's Cultural Center in the 90s, while Reverend Kelly founded Open Door.
In Brother Jeff's Cultural Center, we're not going to have the hatred.
Open Door is the oldest anti-gang program still.
As 5 Points home values plummeted, families fled to Park Hill, Montbello, Aurora, and elsewhere, and young people were getting locked up more frequently.
Right there is the Gilliam Youth Detention Center.
The gangs were eventually squeezed out too.
So what happened is gentrification. I could get all of the equity of individuals who are fleeing or leaving, and the pain and the despair can become an investment opportunity.
Today, as we walk Welton Street with Brother Jeff, shop owners and managers like Jerry Morgan see us through the window and pop out to say hello. It feels like community.
Right here is Grasp Enterprises. This is our social enterprise. We employ young people to give them a trade, a skill, keep them off the streets.
And while the flavor and soul of the neighborhood still exists, Brother Jeff sees a much different place than he did even 10 to 15 years ago.
I would imagine in 5 Points, Curtis Park, San Rafael, Clement, this entire area right now, I don't know if you could find 100 black families.
Is there a future where black families can move back to this neighborhood, or is that just not practical?
You know, it's hard to say not practical, but it's not practical.
Yet there is no doubt preserving black history here, no matter how complicated, the good, the bad, and the ugly, will most certainly define the future of 5 Points.
There's no Muhammad Ali without coming to 5 Points looking for Sonny Liston. Or you wouldn't have a Madam C.J. Walker, who was the first self-made woman millionaire.
In 5 Points.
That's the hope of 5 Points.
Russell Haythorne, Denver 7.